In this video, I will be attempting to survive 100 days on a tribal island. The island is infested with giant dinosaurs and animals that roam free. Even the waters are filled with dangerous sea creatures. But worst of all are the different tribes fighting over land and resources. Will I be able to survive? Watch till the end to find out. And finally, if you aren't subscribed, please subscribe for more content, and it also means a lot to me, and enjoy. The first thing I did was break the first tree in sight, as I would need as much resources as possible to get started. After breaking the tree, I used the wood to make a crafting table and to also make wooden tools. I quickly came across a cave, so I used this opportunity to upgrade to stone tools. After leaving the cave, I found some pretty hungry dinosaurs, so I decided to steer clear and head in a different direction. Shortly after, I found some pigs, so I used this chance to kill them and get as much food as possible. I decided it would be best for me to set up base somewhere around this area so I could have somewhere defendable if I got attacked. On the outskirts of the jungle, I found a big rock that looks perfect to be hollowed out and made into my new base. I then made some furnaces to cook my food so I could go on my new adventure. And just like that, it was time for me to set off and explore the island. I came across another small cave and quickly cleared out all of the ores before setting back off again. And after another hard day of exploring, I came across my very first players. After watching them closely for a minute, I decided to back away a little bit and give myself some space. And I also found my favourite dinosaur from when I was a kid. After realising that the two people were stronger than me, I decided it was time to properly go mining and get some gear. Whilst mining, I saw two name tags above ground and saw Guilty and Sword just outside the cave entrance. I started crafting gear and weapons as quick as possible, thinking that they were going to storm the cave and try and kill me. However, I was able to simply walk out of the cave, and after a quick search I realised that they had already left. I then brutally murdered a panda in the forest and decided to go back mining. I finally finished my iron armor set and also managed to craft a custom shield. I was now ready to properly explore. On my first day of properly exploring, I came across a riverside village that had some crops and other useful items in it. Whilst climbing a mountain, I looked up and saw the northern lights covering the sky. And after briefly enjoying the view, I decided to go back to the village and check it out properly, and I actually found a new weapon inside the village. After After clearing the village out, I came across an incredible amount of cows that I used to gather a bunch of leather. I figured out that I should probably make another weapon, so I decided to make a boomerang so that I would have a ranged weapon. On my way back home, I almost got eaten by a large pack of dinosaurs, and then almost got eaten by a T-Rex. Whilst running from the T-Rex, I spotted a treehouse, so I decided to climb the mountain that it was on top of and take a look. However, as I was climbing the mountain, I was ambushed by Sword and Guilty. After escaping, I realized I had to go back and scout out their base in case we ended up fighting in the near future. I climbed a large tree, and after watching them for about 10 minutes, I decided to head back home. When I got back home, I thought it was about time to add a little defense to my base, so I crafted some fences and made a small fence surrounding my base. Once the defense was set up, I crafted some more boomerangs just in case I ever lost a few. I then went off to explore again and came across a fishing hut where I stole all of the food. After a day of exploring the island, I found another tribe who seemed a lot more friendly than Sword and Guilty. I decided it would be best if I played it safe and stayed chill with them so that I wouldn't have to worry about them teaming up with Sword and Guilty. We also did a small trade deal where I received a boxing glove in return for some leather, and also set up a truce between the two of us. And after almost 2 days of exploring, I returned home and decided to go mining for as many diamonds as possible. After a long mining session, I returned home with 14 diamonds under my belt. I then used the diamonds to make a pickaxe, a new weapon, and a shield. I also found some dinosaurs just outside my base, so I decided to test my new weapons on them. This was also when I noticed that dinosaurs would give an insane amount of EXP. After my weapons were tested, I decided it was time that I started enchanted, so I went back into the mines and found some lava. Once I had the obsidian, I realized I needed sugarcane to craft the books, so I went exploring down the river. Eventually, this led me to someone's base, but after looking around for a while, I couldn't figure out whose base it was. After one day in the wilderness, I finally found some sugarcane and took it straight back to my base. I then made a quick sugarcane farm and then crafted my enchanting table. Once my enchanting table was crafted, I enchanted my full set with protection 1 and enchanted my weapons whilst I waited for the sugarcane to grow. Once the sugarcane had grown, I made some bookshelves and got to farming XP for enchanting. After killing quite a few dinosaurs, I finally gathered the amount of XP I needed to start enchanting. With my high level enchantments now active, I decided to enchant my axe and boomerangs, which all gave me pretty good enchants. And just before leaving to go and see what Sword and Guilty were up to, I enchanted my iron set with full protection 3 and 4. Just outside of my base, I actually found a werewolf which dropped 2 golden apples when I killed it. When I arrived at their base, I actually did a tragic job at trying to scout by almost getting eaten alive. After somehow not being spotted after the absolute mess, I noticed Sword in a sugarcane farm wearing pretty good gear. I decided to get into a tree and wait for Guilty to come into view so that I could get a better understanding of what I was up against. And like an absolute melon, I accidentally lost my boomerang and had to give up my cover to try and find it. After throwing another boomerang to work out the direction that it went, I managed to find both the boomerangs and get back into my tree. However, as I was getting back into the tree, Sword actually spotted me and started shooting at me from his base, so I decided to get out as quick as possible. From what I could tell, they didn't yet have an enchanting table, but Sword at least had diamond gear. After leaving the area around the base, I actually found a T-Rex and decided to try and kill it for some random reason. However, I surprisingly managed to pull it off. However, the loot was kinda terrible. After evaluating what gear Sword had, I realized that I had to go mining until I had enough diamonds to make my own full set. Once I was satisfied with the amount of diamonds I had, I got to work crafting and enchanting my new armor set. I also made a katana, but it turned out terrible, so I didn't bother using it. After realizing that my weapon was actually debuffed because I had a shield, I decided to craft a one-handed rapier. I then set off to go and gather some more EXP from dinosaurs. However, for some stupid reason, I got the great idea of hitting a Brachiosaurus, which almost ended in me dying. However, on the way back to my base, I soon realized that I was in serious trouble. I spotted Guilty out of the corner of my eye and was soon being shot at by his bow and arrow. I rushed forward to try and keep Guilty away from my base, but I was also being skeptical because I didn't know where Sword was. I kept pushing Guilty further and further away from the base, and eventually managed to deal a good amount of damage to him. Guilty actually retreated really far back, and out of the corner of my eye I saw Sword's name tag running into my base, so I looped around to attack him. It seemed like they were actually planning something, so I tried to keep my distance away from them and observe what they were doing. I saw Sword actually hiding in the bushes and was really confused on what he was actually doing. And eventually, after the fighting reached a stalemate, they actually started setting everything on fire and escaped. At this point, I was getting extremely annoyed at all of the damage they were causing to me for no reason, so I decided to get a little revenge. The first thing I noticed was that the two idiots were running the complete opposite direction of their base, so that I knew if I left quickly, I would actually get there first. I didn't set much on fire at first because I wanted them to see their treehouse burn down in person. Once everything was ablaze, I made my escape down the ladder and ran down the side of the mountain and watched the treehouse burn. As I was coming back up the hill, Guilty ended up cutting me off and we had a small fight on the side of the hill. To be honest, it didn't look like either of us were doing any actual damage to the other. I eventually decided to retreat down the hill when I saw Sword coming to help him out. A few minutes later, I actually pulled over Guilty and reset their base back on fire. And at this point, I decided it would be best for me to leave and go and get as strong as I can without my base. After the fight was over, I got back to mining to fix up my gear and also gather as many spare diamonds as possible. I also used some diamonds to craft a new pair of boots, which I got even better protection on it. I then combined my old boots with the new boots and decided to head out on the hunt for Sword and Guilty in the hope of killing both of them and getting them off my back for good. The only thing I found, however, on the hunt was loot on the floor where somebody had died. I had no clue of which direction they actually went in when they moved bases, so I had to put my bets on them coming back to their old tree base. After looking around their base, I concluded that they had definitely left in a hurry. Whilst I was waiting in the tree base, I finally figured out that I could use a grindstone to remove bad enchants, so I got to work making a good rapier. And finally, I managed to make my sharpness 5 fire aspect rapier. Days flew by as I grew impatient on top of the tree. However, after many long hours, they finally returned back to the treehouse. I could tell straight away that both of them were much stronger than before. I realized very early on that it was going to be incredibly hard for me to win the 2v1, especially with two of them constantly hitting me with really good weapons. I knew that I had to focus one of them if I wanted even a chance to win, so I decided to focus Guilty and try and do as much damage as possible. Very quickly I was down to my last gapple, however Guilty was nowhere to be seen and I was able to 1v1 Sword. Sword started to back up quite a lot, so I kept up as much pressure as I could and chased him down. And luckily enough, Sword actually died in front of me, and Guilty had also died to fire damage, and it was finally over. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and check out Sword and Guilty's channels as well. Also, I decided not to include the days on this one because I never actually kept track, and most of my time was spent mining, so it just would have been really messy. But yeah, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next video.